Hi, in a previous video I gave an introduction to our new Enterspeed CLI. And in that video I gave a couple of reasons for why you would use the CLI. And one of the reasons was to use the CLI in a release pipeline context. And that's what I want to show you today. So let's jump into it. So first off, let me show you the Enterspeed setup for this demo. So for the schemas, we have 4 simple schemas here. If we go to our new versioning page up here, you can see that we have 3 environments. We have development, stage, and production. And we can also see which version of each schema is deployed to each environment. So for production and stage, we only have the product schema deployed in version 1. And on the development environment, we have deployed all schemas, and the product schema is deployed in a version 2. So if I would deploy that to stage, I can click the deploy schemas, select stage, and here we can see what will be deployed if we click the button. So we will deploy these 3 schemas in version 1, and the product schema will be updated to version 2. Now this is fine, but if you have a setup where you're working in a pipeline context for a release, you want to automate all your things. So let's say whenever you have changes to your code base and you want to make a new release, you also want your Enterspeed schemas to be deployed to that same environment. And you want to do that automatically, so you don't have any manual steps between. So we all human, we make mistakes, and if we have a list of manual steps that we have to go through every time we make a release, we either forget it or we do it wrong, and we end up with a site in a bad state. So let's try to automate all the things. And for that, we can use the CLI. So first off, let's see the CLI here before we jump into the actual pipeline. So if I run the Enterspeed CLI deployment and extract command, and I also want to specify the environment. So for that, it will be development. So what this does is it will extract a deployment plan. And the deployment plan is a set of instructions that will be executed when you deploy the deployment plan. So let's have a look at it. So you can see here it's just a simple JSON file, and it simply just lists all the schemas that we have on that corresponding environment. So in this case, it was development environment, and we can see that we have version 1 of the 3 schemas and version 2 of the product schema. So now I can go ahead and deploy that deployment plan. Save it. And I can do that by typing Enterspeed CLI, deployment, and then deploy. And once again, I need to specify which environment do I want to deploy to, and that will be stage. So that's the command that you need in order for deployment of the schemas in your pipeline. So let's have a look at the pipeline. So in here I have a simple project with a CMS and a front end. And I also have a Azure pipeline here. The Azure pipeline consists of 3 stages. So the first one we have here is just the build stage. So we will build our front end and then we'll build the CMS. In this case, I don't have anything to build. It's just to show up. So it's just a fake step. So after the build step, it will do a deploy to or release to our stage environment. And that's where we use the Enterspeed CLI. So down here, you see that we have a step to extract the deployment plan from development. And then and we do that by using the same command that I just showed you. So deployment extract and the development environment. And also we're specifying the API key. The last command that I have at the end here is just simply to print out the deployment plan. And that's useful if you then you could go back in your history and say, okay, that specific release was doing these changes to our schemas. So it's just for debugging purpose to be transparent. The next step that we have, that's the deployment of the deployment plan. So that will be the deployment to stage. And once you can see here, we're doing a deployment and for the stage environment. The last step here is doing more or less the same. It's just for production environment. So it will extract the deployment plan from the stage environment, and it will deploy that to our production environment. Just to keep in mind, there's nothing special about these deployment plan. It's simply just the JSON files, but it just gives you this snapshot, so you can have a look into see what's actually being executed when I deploy this to a new environment. Okay, let's jump into Azure DevOps. So here I have the pipeline. It has never been executed, but happens to have some changes here in my environment. So if I go here and say I updated index file, like that, then I do a commit, and I will push the changes. And pushing the changes, you can see here from the master branch, it will trigger this pipeline. So let's jump into Azure DevOps, have a look at the pipeline, and we can see that it has registered a new build. So let's just wait for the build to get started. And here we go. Once again, in this demo, these two steps are just fake, just to show that that's what you typically would do. And also the CLI, it states nothing about how you would do your releases. And now I'm doing it in Azure DevOps, but you can do a GitHub action instead if you wanted to. So the two build steps has been succeeded. And in a short time, the release to stage will start. So it's just checking out the source code right now. Now we are extracting the deployment plan, and there we go. And if we have it, we can actually see here is where I printed out the deployment plan. So we could copy that to have a look at it. Like this, JSON, paste in. So that's what we expected. Version 1 of the 3 schemas and version 2 of the product schema. That's perfect. And now it has completed, so we can also see that it has deployed successfully to the stage environment. So let's jump into Enterspeed once again and then reload to see what happened. And now we can see that we have actually deployed our schemas as we expected to stage environment. Perfect. So now you can test the release on the stage environment. And I had just added an approval state here for the production environment, so it will not automatically deploy to production. I just need to approve this release. So let's go ahead and do that. And now the release to production will start. Okay, the job has started. Once again, checking out the source code. And after that, it will extract the deployment plan and deploy the deployment plan. Perfect. We have now released to production. So once again, let's jump into Enterspeed and see if the version is as we expected it to be. Awesome. We have now deployed to production. So all our environments is in sync right now, and we're ready for a new release later on. So 2 simple commands, extract and deploy, and you're ready to automate your pipeline releases. I hope you find this useful, and please check out the CLI for yourself and see what it can do for you. Hi.